watching at home. So this morning we are going to discuss an increase in traffic fatalities that we've had this year. We have Sergeant Adam Jones from the motorcycle unit. We have Detective Nathan Crum from the major crash unit. And then we also have Angela Berry from Charlotte Department of Transportation. So we're going to start with the sergeant and the detective. They're going to present, and then they're going to introduce Miss Berry, and then she'll take questions specific to her at the end of her presentation, and then we'll open up to questions for the sergeant and the detective, and then I'll finish out with some general Q&A there at the end. Okay. Sergeant?
Good morning. I'm going to take this off so everybody at home can understand me better. I'm Sergeant Adam Jones. I'm with the motorcycle unit. We're part of the transportation division, and we partner very closely with our major crash investigation unit. I brought with me Detective Nathan Crum. He's one of our senior detectives on the unit, and he has been involved in over 500 fatality crash investigations during his time with the unit. We have experienced a 44% increase in our fatality collisions this year over last year. What that means is, to break that down, is we've had 62 people that have lost their lives in traffic-related collisions. That's compared to 46 people that lost their lives at this time last year. 16 of those 62 have been confirmed DWI-related incidents, and there's a handful of pending toxicology reports that we're waiting to come back. 32 of our 62 collisions were related to excessive speeds. That's an increase of 146% over last year at the same time. We have had 16 pedestrians struck and killed so far this year. As a division, we are continuing to diligently address these traffic collisions, including we've done 54 enforcement operations year to date, and those are speed enforcement and also impaired driving enforcement operations. There are 50 prioritized corridors within the high injury network as identified by the Vision Zero task force, and we have done at least one operation in half of those so far this year. We've also conducted 12 educational events, which have been impaired driving training and presentations within the community with CMS and also within our own department to train our own officers on DWI investigations. And we've also conducted child passenger safety installations, checking stations, where we have our trained technicians properly install or check the installation of child safety seats for the public. So this is frustrating for us personally and professionally because so many of these tragedies are preventable. We're going to redouble our efforts in trying to reduce these numbers, but we need your help from the community. The ways you can help us, number one, is slow down. Number two, if you're drinking, call rideshare, call a taxi, or call a friend. Number three would be to wear your seatbelt. And number four would be to put your phones down. Pay attention to the road. Far too often, we are knocking on doors in the middle of the night, waking up families to tell them that one of their loved ones has passed away in one of these tragedies. This is bigger than CMPD. This is going to take the community to partner with us and share some of the responsibility in order to keep our roads safe. Angela Berry is with CDOT, and she plays a critical role in our Vision Zero task force, where the police department partners with CDOT, among other agencies. This was launched to eliminate all traffic-related fatalities and serious injury crashes, while increasing the safety, health, and mobility of the public. Angela is with us this morning, and she's going to talk through the strategy about how we can all help to keep our roads a little bit safer.
Good morning. Similar to Sergeant Jones, I hope you don't mind, I'm going to take this off so that you can hear me just a little bit more clearly. I want to share in very simple terms what Vision Zero is. Vision Zero is an injury reduction strategy. It is not a crash reduction strategy. We will always have transportation users who make errors or make poor choices, but those errors should not result in fatal or serious injury crashes. The City of Charlotte leads a community-wide effort to implement our 2019 Vision Zero Action Plan. The Mayor proclaimed Charlotte a Vision Zero city in March of 2019. We are very proud of this designation. Dozens of U.S. cities have implemented or have started Vision Zero action plans across the country. For the development of our Vision Zero action plan, we referred to other cities that had success, places like Los Angeles, New York, Denver. Over the past 10 years, our city has seen explosive population growth, adding close to 200,000 more drivers, pedestrians, and bicyclists to our streets, paths, and intersections. Charlotte has responded by creating a variety of safe ways for people to move around the city and connect with each other. We've upgraded intersections, we've added more bike lanes, built additional sidewalks, lowered speeds, all in an effort to work towards the best possible transportation and pedestrian safety systems for our growing city. Through Vision Zero, we will continue this work, focusing on how we can collaborate as a community, reiterating what Sergeant Jones said, to reduce crashes and eliminate traffic fatalities and serious injuries. Because, quite simply put, even one traffic-related fatality is too many. Traffic crashes are fixable problems. They are not accidents. Let's stop using the word accident today. Vision Zero is a transformative initiative, and we have to work together as a community to get to zero traffic fatalities and severe injuries. Every road user in Charlotte is a loved one, including my family and your family. Every life is important. What goal is acceptable if the goal isn't zero? How many traffic-related deaths or severe injuries are acceptable in your family? Remember, we all share the roads. It's public space. Collectively, it is our responsibility to prioritize safety for everyone. That's what Vision Zero is all about. And with that, I'm happy to take questions.
Ms. Perry, I guess you ran down the list of things that are being done positively, you know, the upgrading intersections and creating bike lanes and so forth, and yet the numbers have gone up. What's going on? Why is this happening?
It's puzzling, and I'll be honest with you, it's a topic of conversation that Sergeant Jones and Sergeant Jackson in the Major Crash Unit have had. Quite simply put, from what I'm seeing in the crash data, I'm seeing speeding excessively, egregiously, not just 5 miles an hour over the speed limit or 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, but 20 to 30 miles an hour over the speed limit. And those are resulting in more run off the road, single vehicle crashes than I've experienced in the 6 years I've been in this position as traffic safety manager for CDOT.
Got to be terribly frustrating. You're making progress in this direction, but the bottom line is, well,
We are making progress. I'm very positive about all the things that we're doing collaboratively through Vision Zero, both with CMPD, CDOT, and our other partner agencies. The key to this is the message that we're trying to share with you today, that this is about all of us as a community. We all must take ownership and responsibility when we're out on the road as pedestrians, as motor vehicle operators, and as bicyclists.
I have just one question for you. Do you know if any roads or areas stand out in particular of where this is happening more than anywhere else?
So we have developed what's called the high injury network. So we have mapped the fatal and serious injury crashes over the last 5 years. And they are the roads that you might expect that have a higher incidence of fatal and serious injury crashes. It's about 10% of our road network. And it is the roads that you might expect. It's the Independence Boulevards. It's the Freedom Drives. It's the, there's one on the south side I can't think of right now. It's available on our explorer.charlottenc.gov website. We have it mapped so that you are more than welcome to see historically the high injury network. This is our third year mapping it, and it's not changing very much from year to year.
What's the website?
I'm sorry, it's explorer.charlottenc.gov. It's a web-based mapping site where you can turn different things on and off related to the city, and the high injury network is under Charlotte DOT.
Explorer.
Explore,
Okay.
no R.
Anybody else from the spirit?
Forgive me.
Thank you, Ms. Berry.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Sergeant Jones?
Anybody have anything for Sergeant Jones?
I think you kind of talked to it already, but I mean, you know, those late night visits and obviously it's probably the worst part of your job and the detective's job. I mean, and sort of redouble what I asked Ms. Berry, and that is all these things we're trying to do, but at the end of the day, or the night, the bottom line is those numbers are going the wrong direction. It must be extremely.
It is very
It's
frustrating.
hard.
It is.
There you go.
Sorry.
I had to prompt you.
Yes, that is very frustrating. And it is one of the hard things we have to do. And, you know, if we're on a traffic stop, somebody gets upset with us for issuing a citation for speeding, sometimes we explain to them, listen, we're tired of seeing your dead loved ones.
You're king of Charlotte, what do you do? What do you think? More enforcement? You know, I don't know. I mean,
I wish we had the answer. I think it's going to take a lot of cooperation with the community partnering with us. We do have an enforcement job to do. I mean, that is part of our job. Part of our job is the education aspect. It can be challenging with COVID going on right now. Both of those can be challenging through the coronavirus. But, you know, we still have that job to do. And I know that, you know, me and my guys, we're not going to stop doing our job.
Can you explain what an operation looks like?
Those can take different forms. For a speed operation, sometimes it's just a saturation patrol, where officers who are radar and LiDAR certified would be in the same vicinity, one of the locations listed in the high injury network, and they would just be running their own instruments, stop making their own traffic stops. Another way that those may appear to the public is they'll see an officer standing on the side of the road with the LiDAR, and what they're doing there is they're clocking speeds of drivers that they have approximated their speed, and then they confirm that with the instrument. And then they call it out over the radio, and the line of officers further down the street would, you know, make the traffic stops as they come through. We also do DWI checkpoints. The DWI task force is responsible for the majority of those. And those, again, would be, you know, one of those locations where they would set up, they would have the Batmobile out there for the intoxilizers, and they would check cars as they come through. And then the DWI task force also does saturation patrols, so they would pick one of those locations, and they would saturate it with officers for looking for any traffic violations with a heavier focus on trying to find impaired drivers. Those are typically what we're looking at as far as our operations. Some of our locations, we have stood on the sidewalk and called out seatbelt violations as they passed by. Because, again, that's another one of the contributing factors to our fatalities is occupants not wearing their seatbelts and being involved in a collision. So those are kind of a general idea of what we're looking at when we say an enforcement operation.
Anybody else from Sarge?
Real quick, when you talk about these operations, is there a particular day or time that stands out when it's like, okay, these are when the bulk of the speeders or people are not wearing seatbelts?
It's really all over the board. Yeah, it's all over the board. A lot of the times you'll see the motorcycle unit out doing their operations for rush hour traffic. And then the DWI task force is going to focus theirs on more of the evening hours, after dinner into the early hours when the bars are closing and things like that. As far as day of the week, it's all over the place. It's every day of the week.
Thanks, Sarge.
Thanks, sir.
And before I open it up to general questions for me, I do want to put out that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives announced a $10,000 reward for information that leads to the identification, arrest, and conviction of a person or persons in reference to the June 22nd shooting on Beatties Ford Road that led to the death of 4 of our citizens. Now that $10,000 will be on top of the $5,000 reward that Crime Stoppers has previously put out for that case. So now it's a total sum of $15,000 for information in that case that again will lead to the identification, arrest, and conviction of those responsible parties. Those with information on that can call CMPD Crime Stoppers. Number is 704-334-1600.
Have you all received any tips on that investigation? What's the number of tips that you all received?
Right now, we don't have any arrest in that case. And we know that there were hundreds of our citizens out there on that night. Hundreds of people who have at least a small bit of information that we need in that case. And we're still waiting for that information. So reach out, 704-334-1600, Crime Stoppers. Yes, sir, you had one.
Can you just brought up the shooting and this reward. Can you talk about kind of more in the city, especially yesterday, where these repeated shooting calls, almost 5 yesterday? What's kind of the message from the department? I know it has to be tiring to keep getting called to something that could be prevented.
Right, and very complicated issue. And it is frustrating. It's going to take all of us, and when I say all of us, those of us in this room, those of us in the community, the police department, it's not a police problem, this is a community problem. This is an us problem. We've got to come together and figure this thing out. And, you know, it goes into what the chief of police has been talking about in terms of community collaboration. We need the community's help to help us not only solve these crimes, but prevent these instances from even taking place. What else?
Well, since it's just a general Q&A,
Sure.
Since the Herald Easter video is expected to come out tomorrow, and I hear it's disturbing, do you have any message to the community?
Well, I think you did hit it. There are going to be some disturbing things that they see in this, and we are putting those videos out tomorrow for full transparency, and we are going to make people available in the future. I can't make a hard commit on that just due to the nature of this business, but those questions will be more appropriately answered in the future and not by me today.
But is there a general message that you can say? I mean, obviously, if it's disturbing, you may have people who want to kind of voice their opinions publicly.
Sure. So, and I think you're speaking in terms of potential protest activity. So we will always protect people's right to protest. And, you know, a lot of this, again, falls back to community collaboration. And anytime that, you know, we're always looking for ways that we can improve on our end, we need the voices of the community to be interjected in that improvement process.
Do you have an
Yes, sir.
update on the officers and sergeant involved in there, what you said?
So all the officers and the sergeant involved have resigned.
Do you know if they'll still have access to their pensions or if they're eligible for pensions?
That is not something that I can answer. We can touch base offline about that, and I'll put you in contact with the appropriate person who can answer that question.
You all also said that you will not be using tear gas anymore. Should something pop up, protests pop up, are you guys still comfortable with your ability to make sure that everything stays peaceful?
Sure. I mean, police officers operated without tear gas for plenty of time before it was developed and brought around. You know, that was just one tool on our tool belt. So yeah, so the safety of our citizens, both protecting the safety of the people who want to have their voices heard, we're going to be there to protect them. We're also going to be here to protect the city itself, as well as our uninvolved citizens.
And ahead of tomorrow, has the department been in touch with the family at all? Kind of in communication?
That is ongoing. Short answer is yes, that's ongoing. The development of that will continue to take place and will be more appropriately answered with additional information in subsequent days, and not by me.
Are you all hoping, though, that because there has been a layer of accountability already added, policies already been changed, that maybe things won't spike up and become heated?
Sure, and that's part of the goal in terms of showing our level of accountability and transparency, because that's what people want. They want to see that we are transparent with the community that we serve. I mean, we're public servants. So it's our philosophy and goal to do that. And then on the accountability end, as we talked about with the officers and the update on the officers, it's all a move in the right direction. And it is our hope that as we show those things to the community with your help, that we are able to show that we're trying to move in the right direction.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.